Are we good? There we go. You're the early risers. Won't you pray with me this morning as we gather today? Gracious and almighty God, we pray for an anointing to be upon your people. To be upon this place, come, Holy Spirit, and do your work of renewing, of strengthening, and of drawing in courage your faithful disciples into the world. Grant us the peace in this day and the glory in life to come. Amen. Jenny and I attended a church for some 17 years, and about 14 of those years were under the same pastor who actually not only God used to bring me to Christ, but also brought me into the ministry, so it's his fault. I remind him every time. Pastor Jim, Jenny and I were there most weeks. If we weren't traveling or sick, we were there each and every week, and I have to be quite honest with you, that in hearing all those sermons, 50 sermons, 60 sermons a year from Pastor Jim, I only remember 2 things he ever said in his sermons. So if you get home today and you say, what was that point that dude was trying to make at church today? You're guilt-free on that one. One particular time in our ministry at that church, I was on the leadership team, and we were going through the exciting and yet challenging task of figuring out whether we should expand the church. There was a temporary wall set up in the sanctuary in the hopes that one day the pews would be so full they could take that temporary wall down and just continue to extend. And if you're in that church today and you're standing in their pulpit area, it's shifted over to accommodate for that wall being taken down. When the time came for that decision to be made and for further expansions in the building because of a growing children's ministry and adult Sunday school ministry, the decision to take that temporary wall down, which was just simply drywall, came at a very heavy price, because the fire marshal came in and said, if you take that wall down, you've just modified the building, and now you need to put a modern fire suppression system in. And so what they thought was going to be a real cheap, quick way to do this ended up costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you've ever been in a capital campaign when it involves expanding a church, you know that those can be contentious times. Everyone has their own set of priorities. Hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? Such was the case, and Pastor Jim in that day, decided to let a precious and beloved member of the staff go so that she could spread her wings in pastoral care ministry, and she now serves as a hospital chaplain and serves in Christ beautifully every day. That was not an easy time in the church. And there was a lot of talk about, well, maybe we don't need to expand. Then I remember Jim got up in the pulpit that day, and here was his basic message. The one I remembered was, statistics show today that 4 out of every 5 people are sitting at home this morning without a church home. And if we truly believe that we are a catalyst, a way to salvation, not a guarantee of it, and certainly don't have any exclusive rights to God, if we, though, are a catalyst to that, folks, we got to make room. We got to make space. The church that was busting at the seams at that point really got into conversation of whether or not we should really take the wall down to save money so we could spend that money elsewhere in the building. Jim finally said, if that's true, then that means that the catalyst will be there for 4 out of 5 people in our community. And in the end, the question I want to ask you as we consider our path forward and what we should do is simply this. If we decide not to expand, to make room at the inn for more people to come, then we're condemning them to hell. Is that okay with you? Because it certainly isn't okay with me. And I want to give you a chance to think about that today and respond in the next month. I want you to pray about that and come back in a month and tell us what God has been saying to you. He walked out the aisle, and he said at the appropriate time, the praise team will close the service. We sat there for 15 or 20 minutes. It was probably, I don't know, a week later, a week and a half later, I felt God was saying something to me, so I picked up the phone, I called Jim, I said, that sermon that you preached is still haunting me pleasantly. And I just want to let you know that in my opinion, it's about time. It's about time someone was strong enough to stand up in the pulpit and say, who's going after the lost, and the least? And will we make space in our worship spaces, in our ministries, in our lives for such people? He said, you're only the second person to give me positive feedback on that sermon. What is it that causes us in such strange and unusual ways to fear at such deep levels what new people who are brought into the church and reconciled into the kingdom will bring? Why are we so afraid? For the change that might come so that others might feel welcome. What will we do to make room at the table or room in the inn? You see, in Jesus' day, who you ate with said everything about who you were. Those you want to be associated with. You didn't dine in the dining room behind closed doors. You dined in an area where people on the street, when they walked by, could see who was sitting there. Such was the case in Jesus' day. A Pharisee invites him to his house. And the indication that they're reclining at table means that this was a pretty big banquet. Jesus may not have been the honored guest. Maybe the Pharisee invited him because he was curious about who Jesus was. He shows him the respect of calling him teacher, but not enough of presenting a way for him to wash his feet, oil for his hair, a kiss on each cheek of welcoming. Sometimes we can learn the most about the faith journey from those who have fallen the farthest. Jesus uses someone who sits in the margins to teach the lesson of the day to all, quote unquote, reclining at the table. If we are to walk in his shoes, walk in his steps, and fulfill the ministry that he started on the cross of reconciling us back to God, then we need to start tearing down the boundaries that separate us. The ways in which the last, the lost, and the least feel unwelcome. We need to embrace them and to bring them back into right relationship, not only with God, but with each other. Who would you invite to your table? Who would you invite to take a room in your house? Would you welcome the stranger? Would you find a home for the orphan? Would you find a place for the sick, the lonely, the addicts? That's my question today for us. If we're to walk in Christ-like ways, who or will we choose in future days to associate more with? The Pharisee that says, if they really knew who they were with, and the sinner who's left with nothing but a heart rent on their past and walks away with the hope of the future. We have a friend who's returned to us today who has a better way to tell this story than I. I hope that you will join me in welcoming our brother, our friend in Christ, Mike Mohler.
just thank you to the pastors here and the staff for allowing me to be here. This church means the world to me. If you don't know, my dad was a pastor here a decade ago and more. I grew up in this church. I know every nook and cranny of this church because I played hide and go seek in this church many times. This church holds memory after memory. Whether it's me running through the glass doors out front, having to get stitches, or breaking every glass exit sign that existed in this building. By the way, you're welcome for all the plastic ones that now exist. My dad wouldn't even let me have a bouncy ball in this church anymore. I had my very first kiss in this church. This church was good to me. I mean, this church helped form my faith in a way that I will forever be grateful for. My very first time ever preaching was on this very platform. This is where I learned what it was like to be a Christian, what it meant to follow Jesus. It's also where I learned my calling to go into ministry. Now, today I get to be here to talk about a nonprofit that I started in May called Continue the Story. It is something that is very dear to my heart because it is something that I have experienced. It's something that I have become ingrained around because of really poor choices in my life. See, sometimes in our lives we have memories that outweigh everything, and most of the time they're good. Maybe they're anniversaries, they're the days we had our first child. For me, the memory that is most etched in my mind is actually the worst memory in my life. It is the one that catapulted my life to be forever changed, but also it's what's catapulted me into doing something I hope that will actually radically change the prison system. You know, for me, I had this wonderful life. I had parents who supported me, and then I make really bad, poor choices that affected me. And so I kind of want to share a little about that and kind of what led me to continue the story. So for me, I went off to Ohio State from Chillicothe, class of 05, CHS, woo woo. And I went off to Ohio State. I worked as a youth director at a church for about 4.5 years. I loved it. I had an opportunity to go to Southwest Ohio. I was offered an associate pastor role. I was like the Scott Smith of Walnut Street. And I was like, okay. I had the best job in the world. I really did. To this day, it will be forever the best job. And I was in charge of the contemporary worship and the youth ministry. And I got to preach every single week. I got to come up with unique ways to bring Jesus' message to those who are unchurched in our community. And I loved it. And in the midst of all that, the 2 services of contemporary I saw go from about 45 people down to 30 in 2 services after my first 2 weeks. I remember calling my dad like, I think I'm doing something wrong. People keep leaving. You know, it's not a good thing. And Dad's like, no, that happens. You're good. Just, keep with it. And within 1.5 years, we grew from 30 to 150. And then within 2 years, we were at 200. Special events, we were at like 260, a standing room only. And God was doing amazing things in that church. But unfortunately, something got in the way. There's this really handsome Adonis of a man standing before you. If you don't know, I'm talking about my ego, my pride. Everything that was happening in this church, I turned directly back to me. I was getting asked to travel across the country speaking at conferences and workshops on how to grow young adults, those mythical creatures. I was having a blast. But my ego started telling me that it's all about me. It's all about my ministry and not what God was doing. Unfortunately, that ego seeped into every aspect of my life, including my ministry. And in doing so, a lot of the boundaries that I had formed that were once black and white started to gray. I started blurring lines, and I would take one step, and I didn't think anything of it. You take another step, you don't think anything of it, until you realize where you began. And that's the story of my life, the story of my fall, and it's also what leads me back to the worst moment of my life. It's the day that actually I allowed myself to be put in a situation that I should have never been allowed in. And in a matter of seconds, my life and the lives of the people of my church and the lives of other people were drastically altered. I remember walking in, I remember going to work on a Tuesday. It was the same day that I would later get fired. It was the day I got arrested. And nothing sells more than a fallen pastor in the news. It sells like crazy. I got to watch it all unfold. as I sat there crying in a jail cell, terrified, alone. You know, it goes back to a memory of just sitting there shivering, asking the guards, please don't take me up to my cell yet. Can I just compose myself? As I just can't stop crying. Now, I don't share this because I don't want pity, I don't want sorrow. I share it because it's actually what caused God to speak the most truth into my life ever. It's the time that God opened up my eyes more than anything else in my life. It's a date full of shame and guilt, like unbelievable. Things that I still wake up every single day. You know, my actions were not the will of God, by no means. I hurt people. I wanted to do good for the kingdom of God. And here I am just hurting people. As a total, I spent 68 days in jail. And I remember sitting there thinking my story was over. Forever would I be known as the pastor who fell. And soon I allowed every word that I heard from the social media, from friends, from family, from people in the community, I allowed every negative word to control who I became, who I was. All of a sudden I was Mike Mohler, the disgraced pastor. Then there's Mike Mohler, the convicted felon. But what happened to Mike Mohler, the child of God? What happened was everything people told me I allowed to become true. I messed up. But I just wanted to feel normal again. I just wanted to be human for another day. And that's when I was sitting in jail, I found people who were hurting, broken, and alone, just like me. They were human beings just like us. They were children of God just like us. You know, God put in the right people in that jail cell at the right time for me to have a glimmer of hope. I'm not this big buff guy, let's be honest. I never was. If you'd known me 15 years ago, I was this like little kid running around like, ah! You know, like terror in this church. I think that's why you're like, you don't ever want a preacher's kid ever again in Walnut Street. Please, no. Please. But I found people who were just in despair. You know, my mom, so one of my favorite things was getting letters in the mail. It's the only thing that really gives you hope in jail. There's not a lot. And my mom would write me letters, my whole family would. And I have a whole stack out there on my table if you want to see. 68 days, the stack is huge, it's a doorway now. But my mom found out that one of the people in the jail cell was not getting letters. And he was just defeated. So my mom anonymously wrote a letter to him, just saying God loves you, that you're being prayed for, and that you can do this. To watch a man go from brokenness to watching life flood his eyes is what started my entire ministry of prison ministry. A simple kindness act of my mother, who took no glory, didn't sign it, just wanted the person to feel loved. What if I were able to do that same thing? I kind of worked out with God at the time. I was like, God, okay, here's the thing. I'm just going to try not to mess up ever again. I'm not going to drag your name into the mess. Just get me out of here alive, please. I was like, I never want to be in front of a church ever again. True stuff. This was never supposed to happen. Luckily, God is a God of second chances. And in the midst of all that, I started Continue the Story, which is a nonprofit, which is all about building stronger families, those impacted by prison system. So for families that are the people who are in prison, but also their families who are outside. Because the reality is no matter if I made a mistake, I don't have a family, I don't have a wife that they're affected, but I know my friends and my family were affected as well. But what if we were to create a system where children who are impacted by prison could still see their mom and dad in a positive way and build that relationship so when they are released from prison, they have a family again, that they remain connected and stronger than before. So we started a ministry called Stories of Hope. Stories of Hope is a video storytelling ministry that we go into prisons and we video record inmates getting to read bedtime stories for the children. They get burned onto a DVD. They get shipped to their children from mom or dad, not from us. We just pay for it all. And it goes along with the book itself, a stuffed animal that their mom or dad gets to pick out. and blank coloring pages with stamped envelopes that the kids can then send back to mom and dad. Our goal is that the kids can read with mommy or daddy anytime they want. There's a huge psychological, emotional trauma for children and families when people go to prison. And unfortunately, as a result, learning disabilities happen immensely. Reading disabilities especially. So how do we try to conquer some of that, but let them read with mom and dad every single night that they want to? Nationwide in 2007, 1.7 million children in the United States had a parent incarcerated at any given moment. 1.7 million children. Here's the sad part, that was 10 years ago. The trend in prison, I will tell you, has not been pretty. It's just gone up. Which means that number is probably more like 2 million children at any given day right now have a parent behind bars. They know what it's like to be broken and lonely. What if we were to give them second chances? Luckily for us, that's exactly what Jesus did for us as human beings. He looked at our lives and said, oh, they're covered in sin, but I love them. And he put himself on a cross so that we may have a second chance in our lives. No matter our past. You know, I finally got to the point where I'm like, I'm done with people looking at my past. I don't care that they will always judge me by my sin. I get it. I messed up big. I have the memories in my head. I know. But I'm tired of not being anything other than somebody who can try to make a difference in the world. And so God continued to put this story in my life and how to rewrite our stories. I believe that each one of us in our lives can help rewrite the stories of others in their lives. What if we could rewrite the stories of those who are in prison and their families? They just need hope. They need love. They need peace. And if it wasn't for the people in my life who accepted me into their lives again, into their hearts, into their homes, I would not be where I am today. And this was about 4 years ago. And the last 4 years have been a crazy roller coaster in my life. But thank God, God is a God of second chances. If it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would be here right now. I'd probably be in the back row of some church just like, nobody look at me. You don't need, I'm never going to sign on the sheet. I don't want people to know I'm here. See, we believe that our stories are over. But their stories are not over. Our stories are not over. They are just beginning. Because in a world where we judge people by their past, we choose to define them by their future in Jesus Christ. That is what we are trying to do. And I could go on and on and on. I'm trying to make sure that Pastor Joe has time to still preach. So I could be here till 8 p.m., I'm pretty sure. My last church called it, oh, we got Mohler. You know it's not a good day when your last name becomes a verb. So that's the thing. You can blame my mom for that. But if you want to learn more information about Continue the Story, I'll be over here in the cafe. I would love to talk to you more about my story and hear about your stories and how our stories together can help rewrite the stories of those in prison. If you want to learn to get involved or help us financially or even buy one of these super sexy shirts, yes, I'm biased, but come on, come talk to me. I would love to hear your story. And I'd love to see how God can change the world through our actions as we take a pen and we start writing our stories back. Thank you.
As we prepare to move to a time of communion, we certainly want to thank April Prophet and Mike for sharing their blessings. Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew, in the 25th chapter, has these words for us to consider. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see a stranger and invite you in, or need clothes to clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "I tell you the truth. Whatever you do for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." Friends, the story of our faith journey is simply this. God came to reconcile us. He came to bring us home. He came for those of us who are homeless to find a home. He came for those of us who are sick and lost to find healing and a place. That message is the message we carry into the world. It's the story of our faith journey and the ways in which God is transforming us and the way we are called to transform the world. Beautifully, Jesus left us with a reminder of just how far he would go for us to be reconciled. And that is the gift that we share each week when we gather. Would you pray with me as we prepare our hearts for communion once again? Gracious and holy God, we confess we do not understand the mystery of this beautiful meal. In your brokenness, might we find for ourselves our own ways in which we have allowed poor choices and bad decisions to creep into our hearts. The times in which we felt we were godlike, Lord, and found ourselves failing and falling. But your love, your grace, your power is far greater than all that we could hope, ask, or imagine. So we pray your Spirit might come upon these gifts of bread and juice, and upon all who receive them. Make them to be for us a reminder of our brokenness, but also a reminder of our redemption. Might their very power feed our souls in a way nothing else can. Might we be free. Free to walk in the world as your precious children once again. Come, Holy Spirit, anoint us in your blessing. Amen. If you are in need of prayer, myself and a Stephen minister will be sitting up here up front. Communion rail is open for all who seek a relationship with Christ, regardless of where they are. Come. This is the Lord's table. This is your table.